All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for shave 2 weeks off your next project schedule using WebORB Data Management, which is the second in our continuing WebORB webinar series. 3 problems face developers of Internet applications today with regard to data management. The first problem is that data is table-oriented and code is object-oriented. That's the well-known object relation problem. It's been well-known since object-oriented software techniques gained traction in about the 1980s. The second problem is that some changes can be allowed to occur only in groups, which succeed or fail as a single unit. That's the transaction problem, which has been well-known for even longer, since about the 1960s. And the third problem is that many people are looking at the same data, and when it changes, their view of that data needs to be updated. That's the client synchronization problem, and it has also been well known for decades, but it's only become really problematical in the last decade or so with the rise of the Internet. Now, as I said, each of these is a well-known problem. They're individually complicated, but together they're really complicated. Each has a known solution, the way Einstein's theory of relativity has known proofs. That is, it's well known to specialists, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the average person has the interest, the wherewithal, or the time to implement them themselves. The specialists, however, can have great expertise in that narrowly defined domain. One such specialist in enterprise applications is Martin Fowler, whose book Patterns of Enterprise Application Architecture describes a suite of patterns that address these 3 issues, among others. And those patterns are data mapper, active record, unit of work, and so on. These patterns solve those 3 problems. So in theory, any competent developer could simply study Fowler's book and implement those solutions as necessary to solve those problems. They could, in short, re-implement the wheel. Now, I have no doubt that all of you in this webinar are competent developers who could, in time, implement all of these patterns yourself, just as you could implement your own Unix kernel, your own Java compiler, your own 3D graphics engine, and so on. All of these are also based on known solutions. So implementing them yourself would just take brain power that you've already got and time. But in practice, who's got spare time? Time is money. By using a specialist's implementation, you can save time and benefit from that specialist's expertise and years of experience. With WebORB Data Management, you also get supporting tools, documentation, and sample code that make it easy for you to get started. Now, currently, that is, as of November of 2010, WebORB Data Management is only implemented for Flex-based clients. However, we're currently implementing support for AJAX, that is, JavaScript clients, and we're also considering Silverlight, iOS, and Android clients too. To sum up this introduction then, if your next Internet application includes a Flex-based client that will access server-side data, then using WebORB Data Management can shave weeks, perhaps even longer, off of your development schedule. So that's my stirring introduction. The agenda for the rest of this talk is, first, I'll build a sample application using WebORB's data management tools. That'll take 10 or 15 minutes. I'll write no sample code myself in that construction. Then I'll dive into some sample code of a very simple application. And finally, I'll take any questions that haven't already been asked and answered. You can ask questions at any time, and Kathleen will bring to my attention that such questions have been answered or asked, and I'll answer the short ones as if I can, while saving the longer questions and their answers for the end. So let's dive in and build that sample application. If anyone has any questions, now would be a good time to ask them.
No questions.
So without any, great. So I will move right ahead with the food and drinks application. This is the standard database sample that comes with WebORB Data Management. It's in, you have to install the SQL code yourself to get into your database, whether it's MySQL or SQL Server or whatever. This is using MySQL. It's a very simple sample database. It has 4 tables. Each of the tables is pretty simple. Here's the account table. Account ID, login, password, that's a user account. An order ID, account ID, etc. An order line, which is a collection of orders. No, an order is a collection of order lines, as it says right there. And then there are products that one can order. So it's a grocery database, basically. And here are, again, a different way of looking at the same tables. So it's a simple database. Recognize the names of these tables, especially product, because you're going to see these account, order line, product names again in just a moment. Okay? So that's the database in MySQL. Now we'll go to the WebORB for .NET Management Console. This is version 4.2. Version 4.1 of WebORB for Java has essentially the same functionality in it for WebORB Data Management. There have been some improvements in 4.2 that will be coming to the Java version shortly. The WebORB Data Management is also available for WebORB for PHP. So let's go to the Data Management tab and bring that database into WebORB, make WebORB aware of it. We'll start by clicking on this button, which brings up the tooltip, Add New Database. Sounds about right. This is a Microsoft, or rather a MySQL database. The server is localhost. The login name is root. The password is
Jim, if I can just jump in really quick, we have
yes, please.
We have a lot of attendees before, and I just wanted to reemphasize that the console that you see here, even though it's WebORB for .NET, it's actually the exact same console for WebORB for Java, and then eventually it'll be the exact same console for WebORB for PHP. The nice thing is it's the same process. You go through the same steps in all 3 environments. So for those developers that work on multiple projects and might have to go back and forth between different environments, at least you have a familiar interface that you're working with in any environment. And that's one of the benefits of WebORB.
That's right. One of the characteristics of enterprise development is that it's fuzzy around the edges. You've got to support a lot of different back ends, a lot of different front ends. WebORB makes that easy by supporting a lot of that fuzziness for you. So we've brought the food and drinks database into WebORB Data Management. I now need to add a data model based on that database. I'll do that by dragging the database into this area. I'm going to call the model food and drinks also. I'm going to call the server namespace FAD _server for food and drinks server, and FAD _client for the client namespace. I want to generate code in C#. I could also do it in Visual Basic. Obviously, if this were the Java version, I'd be generating code in Java. I'm going to generate a test drive application for this data model. You'll see that again in just a moment, so keep in mind that I checked that box, and then we'll save this. And so here are the tables from our database brought into our food and drinks data model, which is the schema that we're going to import into WebORB. Now, I could remove tables from this. I could change the names of various properties, look, for example, at the product. I could change some of these mappings from being one-to-many cardinality to other things. I can change all sorts of stuff about this, the names of things, for example, as necessary to reflect my needs. So I'm going to leave all of this stuff alone, however. And first, I'm going to validate the model. And I get a result here that says the model was validated. Everything's spiffy. Then I'm going to build the source code, build the WebORB code for this. And it's generating various classes, as you can see down here. And it says code generation complete. That's good. Now I will download. Actually, first I'm going to auto-deploy the server code, which I think is really spiffy. So I'm going to click that. It does a few more things, trying to connect using WebORB. It goes where the connection's established. That's awesome. To verify that it worked, I'll go to my Services tab, make sure my assemblies are updated, and there's the Food and Drinks DLL that I just created and deployed using the Data Management tab. Now I can drill down into this and see there's the server-side code and the classes that it generated, but I'm going to look at that code from within Visual Studio in just a minute, so I won't deal with it here. But the point is, I was able to verify using the Services tab that the Food and Drinks DLL was in fact successfully deployed. One should always check one's deployments early. The earlier you can verify those things, the fewer bugs you'll encounter farther down the road. Now I'm going to download that code, both client and server, and I will save it to the simple, no, not there, that's a different thing. I will save it to this location and open the folder. Let's see, yes, that's all stuff. I'm going to extract that to food and drinks /food and drinks. I can't remember whether it produces such a folder or not. I may have 3 levels of food and drinks folders here, which would be slightly embarrassing, but not a problem. And say, let's see the extracted files. No, only 2 levels. Here's the client code, and going up, here's the server code. And the server code includes a C# project. That's what we're going to get into next. We'll just take a quick look at the server-side code. And we will open that project. Let's see, I need to go to the server. Yeah, that looks like it. I have a terrible feeling I'm in the wrong place. Let me back up here. New, no, open, project. Let me check the path here, make sure that's the right one. No, it wasn't. I thought it might not be. You know, you go through, build these things half a dozen times. It's easy to create previous versions laying around as landmines for the demonstration. Okay, let's open that. It's an older it produces code for an older version of Visual Studio, so I just need to go through the process to convert it. Yes, I agree to all of your terms. No, I do not want you to ask me. And it was were. And shortly this will go away. I do not want to see the conversion log. And here is the project. You can see that it has one different class for each of the tables in the database, and also a data mapper class for each table in the database, and also one for the food and drinks, and there was something else, code gen. We don't need to worry about those. Let's look at some of these classes. These are really just placeholders, partial classes, that make it easy for you to override the code generated by WebORB and add your own business logic and custom code to the generated code. All right, so it's all basically empty shells to which you can add your own code as necessary. Most of the action on the server side is happening in the WebORB runtime. This just allows you to get into that and override it pretty simply. And that's all I'm going to show you out of that. Let me check my script here. Yes, I am working from a script. See if I missed anything. Key point is what we've done is we've developed an object-oriented API, an application programming interface, for your table-oriented data so that you can call to access your data in an object-oriented manner from your object-oriented code. Let's see, anything else? No. Okay, so notice that there's nothing about client synchronization or transactions or anything like that in this generated code. The majority of that is handled by the runtime. Okay, so now we're going to go to any questions on that before I switch over to FlexBuilder? If so, just type in your questions. Here endeth part 1 of 3. More after the jump.